Okay, so we are moving right along to volume of cones. So this formula, if you're in class, I would have you get out your reference sheets and I'd ask you, what does it say for the volume of a cone? And somebody would raise their hand and they would tell me that the volume of a cone is 1/3 times pi r squared times height. So this should actually look pretty familiar because when we were finding the volume of a cylinder, that was our formula, pi r squared times the height. Well, a cone, you don't have the same dimensions going up the entire time because it comes to a point like that. So we have to take it times 1/3. So let's see what an example would look like. So on number 1, I am on page 600. This is your assignment, so as long as you are copying down everything that I do, you're getting your assignment done right now. So number 1, we're finding the volume of the cone and we're going to round to the nearest tenth. So number 1, we have 1/3 times 3.14 is what we're using for pi still, times the radius, which this is half of the circle, so that is our radius, 14 squared, times the height of our cone, which is right there, 13. You do order of operations first, so I'm going to do 14 squared, which is 144. No, sorry. It is not 144, that's 12 squared. Is 196 times 13 times 3.14 times 1/3. So the way I'm going to do it in my calculator is I'm going to take 196 times 3.14 times 13, and I get 8,072, but I still need to take that times 1/3. Multiplying by 1/3 is the same as dividing by 3, so I'm just going to actually type in divided by 3. So I get 2,666 and 90 hundredths, but since it says to round to the nearest tenth, my final answer is going to be 2,666 and 9/10 meters cubed. And there's your answer. All right, number 2. I'm going to use, again, 1/3 times 3.14, because that's pi, times my radius, which is right there, it is 6, times the height of my cone, which is right there, 6 squared times 28. PEMDAS, I'm going to do 6 squared, which is 36, times 28, times 3.14, times 1/3. 3.14 times 36 times 28 is 3,165 and 12 hundredths, but I still need to multiply that by 1/3. Multiplying by 1/3 is the same as dividing by 3, and I get 1,055 and 4 hundredths. Again, I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, so my final answer is going to be 1,055 millimeters cubed. Okay, number 3. I'm still going to use 1/3 times 3.14 times my radius. I'm given the diameter though. So since my diameter is 10, I know that my radius is half of that, so 10 divided by 2, which gives me 5. So my radius is 5 squared times the height, and they tell me it is 9. I do order of operations, so I'm going to do 5 squared, 25 times 9 times 3.14 times 1/3. I put 31. This should be 3. It's not wanting to erase. So, that is 3. I got 1/3 times 706 and 5/10. So then I need to multiply that by 1/3, which is the same as dividing by 3. And I get 235 and 5/10. So that's going to be my final answer because that is rounded for me. And label it meters cubed. All right, number 4. I have 1/3 times 3.14 times my radius. I'm given the radius is 45 squared times the height they give me is 120. So this one's going to be a pretty big number. So order of operations, I do 45 squared first, which gives me 2,025 times 120 times 3.14 times 1/3. I get 1/3 times 763,020 times 1/3, which is the same as dividing by 3. So I get a final answer of 254,340 millimeters cubed. All right, so those are the first 4. We are going to keep going though. So I'm going to erase and go down. To number 5. So if you remember, we talked about this is a composite shape because it's made up of 2 different types of shapes. You have a cone on top and then you have a cylinder on bottom. On number 6, you actually just have 2 cones put together. So that means we're going to have to do a little bit of extra work. So let's find the volume of our cone first because that's what we've been doing. So to find the volume of a cone, we have 1/3 times pi r squared times height. So I have 1/3 times 3.14 times my radius. So here's the circle of your cone, which means that that part there would be the diameter, and it's the same as the diameter of the circle on the bottom, so 10. So if my diameter is 10, that means my radius is half of that, so 10 divided by 2. So my radius is 5 squared times the height of the cone would be right here, but you can see they actually put it on the outside, so it is 4. I do order of operations first, so I do my exponents. 5 squared is 25 times 4. You can type that all into the calculator at one time if you want to. If you want to break it up like I do, that's fine. So I got 1/3 times 314. So I take 1/3 times 314, or the same as dividing by 3. So I got 104.666666666. So this 6 tells my other 6 to go up. So I'm going to say that the volume of this cone is 104 7/10 centimeters cubed. So there's the volume of my cone. I still have to figure out the volume of my cylinder though. If you remember from when we did cylinder, the formula is pi r squared times height. So I have 3.14 times my radius. My radius for this circle is the same as the circle on the bottom, so my radius is still 5. So times 5 squared times the height of my cylinder would be right here, which is actually on the outside again, so times 3. 5 squared is 25 times 3 times 3.14. So the volume of my cylinder is 235 and 5/10 centimeters cubed. But to figure out the total volume, I would add my volume of my cone, 104 and 7/10, plus the volume of my cylinder, 235 and 5/10, and I get an answer of 340 and 2/10 centimeters cubed. So again, it was just a little bit of extra work, but we got the right answer, not terribly hard. All right, number 6, we're going to find the volume of the party favor shown, and we're going to round to the nearest tenth. So this time I actually just have 2 different cones, so I'm going to use the same formula for both. Volume equals 1/3 times pi r squared times height. So let's find the purple striped one first. So I take 1/3 times 3.14 times the radius. Right here is where that circle would be. So they're saying that right there is 5 inches. So my radius is 5 inches. The reason I didn't have to divide by 2 is because that's only halfway, which is what the radius is. Times the height of this one is going to be right there, 13. 5 squared is 25 times 13 times 3.14 times by 1/3. And I did it all in one step this time. So I got the volume to be 340 and 1.66666. So when I round it to the nearest tenth, the 6 tells my 1 to go up. So the volume of my purple cone is 340 and 2/10 inches cubed. I still need to figure out the blue one though, so I'm going to use pink for that. So my formula stays the same. I have 1/3 times 3.14 times. My radius is the same, it's 5 squared. The height though is going to be times 10. I do PEMDAS, so 5 squared is 25. And I still multiply it by everything else. And I did it all in one step again, 66666. So I'm going to stop there though because I'm going to round to the nearest 10. So this 6 tells the other 6 to go up. So the volume of my blue cone is going to be 261 and 7/10 inches cubed. So to figure out the total, I add them together. To get a final answer of 601 and 9/10 inches cubed. So there is going to be your final answer. All right, so again, I just did your entire assignment with you. Take a picture submit it to Google Classroom. I hope you wrote down all the work. If not, go back and rewatch the video. If you need to pause it because I'm moving too quickly, please do. But you need all of the work in order to get credit for the assignment.